Happy Monday, and welcome to this edition of Monday Thursday. In Genesis 32, Jacob has a very interesting encounter that could even be labeled mysterious. Jacob, he's all alone, he's met by a man, and they begin to wrestle. And it says that they wrestled all night until the breaking of the new day. I wrestled in high school, and I recall that very first day of wrestling practice. The coach paired each boy with someone close to the same size, and each of us was given a small area, and we were told at the sound of the whistle, we were to wrestle. And what I recall distinctly is how quickly fatigue set in. We were to wrestle like for 3 minutes, and after 50 seconds, it felt like we had been there an hour. We were winded, we were tired, we were weak. I can't imagine Jacob wrestling all night long. Jacob must have been a man of incredible strength. This is a passage which is very deep, and a lot of time could be spent there. Someday, these deeper truths will be addressed. But for the couple of minutes that we have together today, I would like to narrow our focus on sanctification. You remember that process through which we become more holy. Sanctification and suffering. In this passage, it states that Jacob was wrestling with God. This fact is confirmed in Hosea chapter 12, but it presents a problem because God tells Moses that earthly man cannot see God and live. Because of the wording in this passage, it appears that this is a Christophany. It's an appearance of Christ in the Old Testament. 3 things happened to Jacob in this wrestling match. 1, Jacob's name was changed to Israel, which means he strives with God. Number 2, he obtained a limp because in this wrestling match, Jacob's hip was touched by his opponent and was put out of joint. And Jacob limped away from the match. And number 3, because of this limp, he was forever changed. All Jacob's natural powers were crippled, and every future step would be a reminder of God's divine grace. Here's the lesson for you and me. Sometimes our growth in holiness, our sanctification, comes from something which is causing suffering. In this day, we are so quick to want to escape pain. We get a slight headache, and immediately we want ibuprofen. And don't misunderstand, there's nothing wrong with taking ibuprofen. I use this as an example of what we do in other areas of life, in that we want to end suffering immediately. And it's quite possible that the suffering we want to end is being used by God to bring about more holiness in us and more dependence upon Him. I say this figuratively. I wrestled with God for years, trying to get my own way, desiring that suffering in some area needs to end or that this suffering is unjust. All the while, missing that maybe God is working through this suffering to produce a change in me and more holiness. Just something for you to think about. Have a terrific day. Soli Deo Gloria.